everybody. Welcome to Zone Defense. We talk all things NBA and NFL. Be sure to follow us on Spotify at Zone Defense Podcast, on Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and hit that subscribe button down below because it really helps out our channel a lot. Also, let us know if you think Sam Darnold will win the Comeback Player of the Year award this year, as the Panthers are now 2-0. Today we will be doing our Week 3 NFL game picks. How's it going, guys?
Oh, it's going well, Drew. It was a really fun week too for us. It was a good week. I'm really excited for week 3.
Yeah, so am I. I mean, it's nothing better when you're leading in the pick'em for like the first time ever. It feels great. However, it did come at the cost of my Lions losing on Monday Night Football, but I'll take it.
That's so unfortunate, man. We're not tanking or anything over here in Detroit, but this week I'm sure will be more of the same for the Lions as they go for 0-17 this year. But I'll jump into the news and notes quickly here. There's not a ton of news besides there was a lot of injuries last week. Some of the major ones. I mean, Tua is going to be out for this week with the fractured ribs. Probably going to miss more time, in my opinion. It kind of sucks for the Dolphins. It may change, what was a good matchup between the Raiders and the Dolphins this week. But Andy Dalton, unfortunately / fortunately, hurts his knee, bone bruise, potentially Drew is clapping because that means Justin Fields will get a starting now this week. I think everybody knows that Justin Fields is my boy. It's one of my favorite quarterbacks. For some reason now I'm a Bears fan, pretty much because he's on the team. So I'm very excited to watch this debut, even though it is against Cleveland. That kind of sucks, but I think we'll go out there and put up a good fight for sure. It's going to be a good game. I'm very excited to watch that one. Tyrod Taylor has a hamstring injury. It's a pretty bad one. He's on the IR, so he's going to miss some time. TJ Watt may miss this game. I'm not 100% sure if he's going to miss against Cincinnati, but I've seen some rumors that he's banged up. Jarvis Landry is also on the IR. I think he sprained his MCL. He's going to miss some time. OBJ is back, though, so that is something that could have been on the news and notes, but he is back. That's big for them. And then Carson Wentz sprained both of his ankles. A very Carson Wentz-like injury to have, spraining both ankles. So we'll see if he suits up. I hear he's questionable for this game as of Thursday night. He's questionable right now, but next up, kind of more injury news, I guess, is the 49ers running backs. It's a mess here in San Fran. I mean, Elijah Mitchell, Trey Sermon, JaMychal Hasty. Hasty is injured. He's gonna be out this week. Sermon's recovering from a concussion. He's still, iffy. And then Elijah Mitchell from the shoulder, I think an AC joint sprain potentially. He may miss time as well. But they've signed like 1,000 running backs from Trenton Cannon, the special team superstar, Jaquez Patrick, which I have never heard of in my life before, but he's a beast, man. I don't know if you've seen what this guy's made of, but he's 225 pounds, 6'3". He's a behemoth of a man. He could go back there and handle some carries for sure. So we'll have to see. And then obviously, Raheem Mostert's out for the season, and then Jeff Wilson still on the IR, but clearly has a path to be the starting running back here because they are decimated by injuries right now. It's been really the two main backfields that have been the story of the offseason have been the Niners and the Ravens, really struggling with injuries. But lastly, we had Zach Ertz hit the COVID list. He's still on there right now. And then recently, unfortunate to my fantasy teams, Antonio Brown, AB, hits the COVID list. I think he has it, so I expect him to probably miss this week at least. He is vaccinated, though, so I'm hoping to get him back out there in my second wide receiver spot because Lord knows we need him out there for my poor wide receiver core. That's for sure.
Yeah, I mean, all kind of bummer points here, except my dude, Jack Patrick, adding to the 49ers or running back carousel. But yeah, the injuries are kind of a bummer outside of Andy Dalton, which sucks for the Red Rifle because he's hurt, but also good for all of us Justin Fields truthers out there. Because Penei Sewell's had a decent first 2 weeks, and we got to shut all those losers up that think Sewell's better than Fields. Looking at you, Roman. Anyway, and then we've got AB hitting the COVID list. And that sucks too, but it is kind of a blessing in disguise for Mike Evans fantasy owners like myself and also Roman. So, Roman, do you have anything you want to touch on any of these topics before we hop into the picks?
I think most notably it's just the 49ers running back room. I mean, they have something going on every week. You think Mitchell's going to emerge, he gets hurt, then Sermon the backup, probably a concussion. I think he'll probably be out this week. Concussions aren't really light to deal with, so who knows who's going to be starting for them. They also have Lamar Miller and Kerryon Johnson over there, so we'll see who they bring up on the active roster for game day. But injuries were a lot last week. I mean, there was a ton. There was even some that were hurt that we didn't talk about, like Baker, who's going to play this week. and many others. So it was a big day for injuries last week.
Yeah, I guess fortunately, it seems like there's a week every year where there's a ton of injuries, and there wasn't any like huge season-ending injuries for the most part last week. So hopefully we don't have any. Hopefully that was the bad week for this year, and we don't have anything bad. But you never know, especially with the longer season, it could happen. But let's dive into the week 3 pick'em right here. Starting off with the Thursday night football game between the Panthers and the Texans. Let's just go reverse order. Actually, we'll give Roman the starting nod here because he's leading the picks. Who do you like in this matchup between the Panthers and the Texans?
Honestly, I mean, we thought Houston was going to get demolished last week. They kind of didn't until Tyrod Taylor got out. So at least they're showing some guts out there. They have some weapons. I think I would have actually picked them if they had Tyrod Taylor in this game.
Wow.
However, I'm going to go with Carolina. I think they're just too dominant, and I think Christian McCaffrey is going to have a day.
Oh, that's good news for my fantasy team for sure, Roman. I'm looking forward to watching this game because I have a lot of shares of CMC, fortunately, with getting the first overall pick in a lot of different leagues. But, this is. I'm excited for this matchup because Davis Mills, long neck McGee is out there. I don't know if either of you have seen him, but he has the
Yeah,
longest neck
yeah.
I've ever seen in my life. And I mean, it should help him look over his offensive line. So maybe he'll find some of those really good targets on their team, like Brandon Cooks, and then anybody else because the rest of their team is irrelevant. But it's pretty much just going to be F it throw it to Brandon Cooks. We'll see if that's enough. I'm kind of rooting for the Texans in this one, even though I do like Carolina as well and think they're good. I'm excited for this game. It's a weird game, but it's a fun game.
Yeah, I bet against my Panthers last week against the Saints. They really shut me up. So I'm all in this week against the Texans. I will say though, and I kind of mentioned it last week, the Texans they've been playing with a lot of heart, and I think there's a lot of comparisons between the job David Culley's doing there down in Houston with the job that Dan Campbell's doing in Detroit. I feel like there's not a lot of talent on the roster, but they're playing hard. They're in the games. You can tell that they're it's not a coaching problem, I guess. It's more of a talent problem. So shout out to both of those guys, David Culley and Dan Campbell. But yeah, the Panthers, I'm excited. This is going to be Sam Darnold's coming out party once again, and he's going to go off. But speaking of Dan Campbell, let's hop in now to the Ravens-Lions game. This is probably going to be a bloodbath, and Chris is already laughing. So how about, Chris, you start us off here between the Lions and the Ravens?
Yeah, I'd love to, Drew. This is a hard-fought matchup in Motown. I mean, expect these Lions to come out there and put up a great fight. No, just kidding. Baltimore's going to smoke them in this game. Offense is better, defense is better, everything's better. Dan Campbell's pretty cool and he's pretty shredded, but he can't go out there and play. So Baltimore should be a cakewalk for Lamar Jackson and co this week.
Although the Lions did have a virtually perfect first half against Green Bay, I think they're also going to lose, and Drew already put his pick in there. I will say though that one shining spot for the Lions, and it will be all season, is their offensive line. I mean, they're just giving Goff time after time after time. So maybe that helps, maybe it doesn't, but I think Baltimore is going to run all over the place. Lamar Jackson though did not practice today because he has a sore hip of diving front flipping into the end zone. So probably should have done that, but either way, I think they'll win pretty convincing.
Yeah. I picked the Lions last week, and I was thinking more with my heart there than my brain, and this week I'm deciding to think more with my brain than my heart. But yeah, shout out to the offensive line, and Lamar Jackson is kind of a dummy for doing that. I mean, it looked cool, and there were some cool pictures of it, but like, come on, dude, you can't be flipping into the end zone like that. But great win by the Ravens on Sunday Night Football this past week. Now we dive into the Washington football team and the Buffalo Bills. I'll start us off with this one. I know Chris is pretty fired up about the game last week where the Giants should have won that game and somehow they choked it away and Washington found a way to win it. I haven't been super impressed with them so far this year, so I'm going with Buffalo. They had a monster game last week. I think they 35-0 against Miami, I believe it was the final score. So huge win by them. I think they had a bad week 1 against Pittsburgh. The last week they proved that they were just as good as advertised. I think Miami and Washington are pretty comparable teams when you look at the talent. Washington's probably a little bit better, but I don't know. Taylor Heineke looked good. I think it's going to be not a huge blowout, but I think Buffalo's going to win ultimately.
Yeah, I really haven't been that impressed with the Bills. I know they won 35-0, but I I don't think Josh Allen's played that great. He was only 17 for 33 in the game. He had a pick as well. It was more on the defense and more on Tua getting injured in that game why they won by so much. But that being said, I've also not been impressed with Washington's defense, and I'm going to take the Buffalo Bills. I think it's going to be a low-scoring game in Buffalo. Weather could be a factor always in Buffalo, and both these teams can win ugly, and they may this week with Buffalo coming out on top.
I agree with you that it's going to be probably a low scoring game. I haven't been super impressed with Buffalo this year either. I'm not going to read too much into their win last week either. I mean, once Tua got out, the game was kind of already in their hands and they kind of ran the score up. So I'm not super impressed with that. Josh Allen hasn't been looked particularly fantastic. Washington did come off a great win last week. I think they have some pieces that they can work with. Obviously, Thomas and McLaurin and Gibson. He needs to get off to a good start in this game. He needs a good game to get his momentum back. I'm actually going with Washington this game just to see what happens, and I think they can actually compete in this one.
Not a bad pick at all. I think it's going to be, like I said, I think it's going to be a relatively close game. I will second Chris though. The Washington's defense has not looked as dominant as it did last year. When you're giving Daniel Jones like that much rushing yards and everything like that, I know he's a good quarterback, but he looked unbelievable last week, and that's not great when you're Washington, a team that prides themselves on their defense. So we'll just wait and see. Two kind of relatively disappointing teams, I think, so far this year. Next up, we got the Bears and the Browns. Justin Fields' his debut in terms of being a starter, so it should be a good game. And the Browns, like Roman said earlier, Baker Mayfield is injured. Jarvis Landry's injured. Odell might be coming back this game. You never know. But I think, Roman, it's your turn. Who do you like in this matchup?
I'm picking Cleveland. However, I think it'll be interesting to see the connection Fields has with Allen Robinson. Obviously, it'll be a huge game for Allen Robinson fantasy owners, seeing what that connection is like. They didn't really have too much of a connection last week when Fields was in for that short period of time. I'm interested to see what the game plan is with him. I assume he'll run a lot. He'll probably throw a lot too. Just a matter of who, because outside of Robinson, they haven't really had anyone step up. I mean, you have Mooney, but he hasn't done a whole lot. And obviously, they have a good ground game and solid defense. So we'll see what happens. But I think Cleveland is the better overall team.
Yeah, Drew picked with his heart last week. I'm going to pick with my heart this week and take Justin Fields to win his first career start in the NFL. It's a tall task, and this may be the pick that really bites me in the butt this week. But, I don't want to go all chalk, and there's a few potential upsets that I don't think I'm going to pick later in the week either. So, you know what? I love Justin Fields, and I want Chicago to win this game, and I think they're going to get done. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, it's a tough matchup to pick, I think, between the Browns and the Bears. I kind of want to pick Justin Fields and the Bears too, but I'm not going to. I'm going to go with the Browns. I am a little concerned for them because Chicago still has a solid defense. If both Odell and Landry both aren't playing, and even if Odell plays, I mean, he's coming off an ACL, his first time playing in like a year. So I am worried for the Browns, but at the same time, I think their defense is so good, and Justin Fields they're gonna make his life tough. I think week one. Even though he does have some interesting pieces on offense with Monty and A-Rob and Mooney and all those guys, Cole Kmet. So it could be an interesting game, but I ultimately am going to go with the Browns. But I like the pick, Chris. I like the pick. Now we've got Colts Titans. This is an intriguing matchup too. It could be an upset, but Chris, who do you like between the Titans and the Colts?
Yeah, with the Carson Wentz injury being pretty uncertain right now, I mean the Colts would be a fun upset pick with him, but I am going to go with the Titans. I thought they really played a good second half after coming out flat again. So a week and a half of really bad football from the Titans. In the second half, they really lit it up and somehow beat the Seahawks on the road and helped me and Roman out in the pick 'em a lot. That was a big upset pick for me in that one. So I'm going to ride hot with the Titans here. I think they're going to come out and play a good football game. This Colts defense has not looked that good so far through a couple weeks. So another tough test for the defense, and I think they're going to crack again.
Yeah, I completely agree. But correct me if I'm wrong, but Derrick Henry didn't even have a touchdown in that first half against Seattle. All his scores came in the second half. And for Indianapolis, they were able to keep it close with LA. But this one, I think it could be a blowout if Wentz doesn't play. I think they're potentially going to use a combination, actually, of Brett Hundley and Jacob Eason. They haven't announced a starter yet. But we'll see what happens. But I don't think it will be very good for him.
No.
Yeah, I agree. I was really concerned about the Titans after that first half last week. I mean, it was like after the brutal week one loss, it was like, man, what is happening here? but they came out and they looked like the Titans that we all kind of expected them to be in the second half. And I think on paper, I think Seattle's a better team than Indianapolis is too. So I think Derrick Henry might have a big game. Julio might have another big game. AJ Brown didn't even have a great game last week, so he might even be better. So I'm with you guys. I like the Titans in this matchup as well. Now we've got the Chiefs and the Chargers. I think it's my turn to start it off. I really want to pick the Chargers here, but I got to be honest, I haven't really been super impressed by them or Justin Herbert so far. Herbert, like, he looked better last week, but they still lost to the Cowboys 20-7. I think it was 2017 game-winning field goal. So I want to pick them, and it'd be kind of crazy to think of the Chiefs being like 1-2. I don't know the last time they had like a losing record. I know it's early, but still. But I got to go with the Chiefs. It's hard to bet against them. Coming off a loss, they would have won that game, let's be honest, last week if Clyde Edwards-Helaire didn't suck. So I know that's pretty blunt, but that's just the facts. Butker was going to have a little chip shot, and Clyde just forgot how to play football for a second. So going with the Chiefs here, getting a bounce-back win against their in-division rival, the Los Angeles Chargers.
Yeah, I actually fell asleep halfway through the Chiefs-Ravens game, which is probably the first time I've fallen asleep through a football game. And I was out all day, so I was extremely tired during that game. But two of the three of us now have a personal gripe with Clyde Edwards-Helaire in this one, but that didn't stop Drew from picking the Chiefs. I'm also going to take the Chiefs, though I could absolutely see the Chargers winning this game. I agree with Drew. It's just, I want to pick the upset here, but I can't do it, especially in Arrowhead. I think the Chiefs are pissed about that loss against the Ravens. They're going to come out and play really well.
Yeah, if the Chargers are going to be what we think they're going to be this year, they kind of have to be a team like this just to prove that they can contend this year, or at least make the playoffs, which I hope they do. But I'm taking the Chiefs as well. I think it'll be another competitive game. They've had some good battles in the past, but I think it'll be another close one.
For the most part, I feel like all those AFC West in division matchups are relatively close. For whatever reason, it seems like the Broncos, Raiders, and Chargers are able to hang with the Chiefs, even if they don't win every time. But next up, this might be one of the most underrated matchups of the weekend, I think. Saints, Patriots, two frisky teams where you can envision them both making the playoffs or not making the playoffs and just absolutely sucking, in my opinion. We saw with the Saints last week where they were like good. They were really good in week one. And they were awful week two. So who knows? Kind of same with the Patriots. So I'm interested to see where you guys have them, who you have winning this game. So Roman, who do you like the most in this matchup?
Yeah, Jameis had an absolute high week one, absolutely fell down to earth week two. I think he'll have a still pretty good season overall. I mean, he didn't really get most of his weapons involved. Juwan Johnson, Marquez Callaway hasn't done anything exceptional last week, and Kamara has had some pretty underrated or less expected performances the past couple weeks. He needs to get it going. I picked against New England week one, and they won. I think when Bill Belichick's at home, I think he's gonna make Jameis Winston look like a fool. I'm taking the Patriots this game. However, I do like New England, or I do like the Saints as well.
Yeah, the Patriots have been a team that I've been in on pretty much from the start of the year. I think Mac Jones is the new Tom Brady. He's just unbelievable now. He does enough to win the game, and their defense is really good. Damian Harris is a good player. He was actually a little banged up going into this matchup. He's going to play. It looks like he's logged 2 limited practice. Actually, that's exactly what I was just looking at on Twitter about 2 seconds ago. That's how I know this. But Patriots are a really good team. I think they're a playoff team, and the Saints, Jameis Winston looked dreadful last week. I made me want to throw up in my mouth watching him play football. That's the Jameis experience. He throws 5 touchdowns the following week, and then the following week he looks like he's never played football before. So give me the Patriots. I think they're in Foxborough, going to get it done.
You guys are really boxing me in a corner here because this was going to be my upset pick. I was going to pick the Patriots, and you guys will pick the Patriots. Now I'm kind of thinking about picking the Saints here because it's just hard to tell because they look so good against Green Bay, and then they look so awful last week. It's like, what is this team? You know what I'm saying? And I do think the Patriots are a better team than the Panthers, but I don't think they're as good as the Packers. So I'm just very confused as to who to pick in this game. Ultimately, because I do have the hat on, so I would feel kind of weird not picking the team that I'm representing right now. I am going to pick the Patriots. I'm just going to wait, I guess, and pick my upset pick later on. Hopefully you guys kind of tilt on something. But yeah, I'll go with the Patriots. But I think this is going to be a really close game. I could definitely see it going either way. So now we got a game that, man, this is going to be kind of tough to watch. We got the Falcons and the Giants. The Giants did play well last week. I know Chris was pretty upset about that because they should have won. They definitely deserved to win that game, but just choked it down the stretch. So, Chris, how about you start us off here with the Giants and the Falcons?
Yeah, my New York Giants apparently they looked really good last week against Washington. I was extremely pissed. I celebrated when I saw the miss kick, and then apparently Dexter Lawrence phantom jumped off sides, which he actually didn't jump off sides. So that was a bunch of BS. He timed the snap up perfectly. I should have won that game. This is under protest, but I'm going with the Giants and Danny Dimes here. I mean, you should never trust anyone more than you trust Danny Dimes. This guy is a reliable quarterback, and he's a superstar. And I'm riding hot with this Giants team. Atlanta sucks. They're trash. Move on. Atlanta blows.
Yeah, the Giants actually looked pretty decent last week. Saquon Barkley still has to get it going, though. He has not had some good games. However, I think this game will be ugly, and I think a lot of players in this game will be fantasy relevant just because of how ugly it'll be. I mean, someone has to score in this game. But Kenny Galladay, trouble in paradise, huh, pal? That's what you get. I'm actually going with Atlanta this time. I think they can. I mean, obviously it's not a good team or anything, so hopefully they can win. But they're coming off a bad loss to Tampa. Matt Ryan threw 2 pick sixes. I think they'll clean it up. I think they'll win.
Here we go again. I was gonna tilt on this one baby too. I thought Roman was gonna go Giants. I was gonna go Falcons. I was gonna be like, here we go. I'm making up a game. I don't know because I think I can visibly see a world where either one of these teams wins this game. But I think I'm going Falcons. I know the final score last week against Tampa Bay, they got plowed. It did
Awful.
not look great. But if you actually watch the game, they were in the game going into the fourth quarter. I think it was a
Made
three
a little
point game.
comeback. Yeah.
And then Tom Brady did what Tom Brady does and just went off. But I think it's easy to say the Bucks are a bit better than the Giants. So give me the Falcons. This could be an easy win for Chris here because I do think the Giants could easily win. But
I like
I,
this.
I'm going with the Falcons. Kyle Pitts had a nice week 2 game, shook off maybe the rookie jitters a little bit. He could have a decent, really solid week 3 performance as well. Now we've got the Bengals and the Steelers. All of us were all in on the Bengals last week. We were like, here we go. And they just fell on their face and lost. And kind of the same thing with the Steelers. I mean, I know last week at this time, I said the Steelers are the best team in this division, and they did not look great last week. I am, however, going to go with the Steelers again, 3rd week in a row. The Bengals, kudos to them for having a great first week win against Minnesota. Congrats. But I think they're as good of a team as we thought they were. So I'm not overthinking this. Going with the Steelers. What do you guys think?
Yeah, this is actually a big matchup because I believe, correct me if I'm wrong, all 4 of these teams are all 1-1 going into week 3 here, and the
Yep.
Steelers, I'm gonna go with them in this one. They're home, but I do think this is a good game, and I think since he has a shot, Joe Burrow played like absolute dog crap last week, but he kind of picked it up in the fourth quarter through 2 touchdowns, made that a respectable score. I think this could be a pretty good game. Pittsburgh didn't look that great last week, but this also could be a get right game for Pittsburgh. We'll see. Big Ben is banged up though.
Yeah, he's dealing with a pec injury, so we'll see how he progresses with that injury over the course of the next few days. And we did say last week that we thought Cincinnati and Pittsburgh were both going to be 2-0 by this point, and obviously, of course, we were wrong about both. So I think this will be an interesting game, though. Very important for the division, obviously. But I'm going to go with Pittsburgh.
Yeah, a lot riding on this game, even though I don't know. I guess it could be kind of entertaining a little bit. I think it might be kind of ugly too. So I don't think too many people are going to be tuning into this game, is what I'm trying to say. And next up, I have to even introduce this game. I mean, like, can we just move on? Jacksonville sucks. I hope they enjoyed having the first overall pick last year because they're going to have it again this year. Any thoughts on this game, guys? The Cardinals look unreal. So I think this could be the hottest team and the absolute worst team going at it right here.
Yeah, this is going to be a bloodbath. Arizona picked a good game to play on the road because Jacksonville blows. I'd rather, this would be a waste of a home game for Arizona, and now they're just going to blow out Jacksonville on the road. Start the Cardinals defense if you have them in fantasy. Start them.
We also can't overlook that they did almost kind of lose last week to Minnesota. I mean, they're just
Won
lucky
the
that their
game.
kicker sucks and missed a game-winning field goal. So they're nearly able to win that game. However, you did see a lot of good things from Kyler and even Rondale Moore, who emerged and broke out. Hopefully, he can do it again. But we should be able to do it again against Jacksonville. But let's see if he can do it next week and the rest of the season. But I think they have a good, solid foundation down there, and they need this game too if they want to. They need to pick apart the easy teams if they want to win the division.
Yeah, I mean, this game, I know I made fun of it to start, but this is one of those games, like you said, Roman, that you have to win if you're going to win that division or even make the playoffs, especially with the juggernauts that are in that division with them. But they can start 3-0. I mean, it's a really solid start for this team, obviously. I mean, now we got another game. I mean, again, I don't want to keep starting off the trend here if anyone loves the Jets, but like, come on. I mean, they suck too. Zach Wilson looked awful last week. I expect a bounce back performance for him, but the Broncos, Teddy Two Gloves. I make fun of him all the time on the show. I want to give a shout out to him. He had a big week. Same with Cortland Sutton. Nice to see him be back in action. Chris was kind of not had his thing in there right away, so I thought maybe he was going to go with the Zach Wilson Jets pick,
No.
but I guess not. Any thoughts on this game, guys, or can we move on?
Well,
Denver 3-0. That'll be
Yeah.
nuts.
and all three teams that they will have beaten will be 0-3 potentially if unless the Giants pull off the win against Atlanta. But this is a pathetically easy start for Denver. It's what they needed to get off to a really good start this year. So they should win this game easily in Denver, in the Mile High City, and Zach Wilson might lead the league, might break the record for interceptions during the season. He's already at 5, on pace for a lot.
Well, and I mean, I know we're going to get into a second here with the Raiders. I know they're a decent team, but the Chargers haven't looked amazing. The Chiefs are obviously the Chiefs, but they start 3-0. The Broncos, I mean, they only have to go 7-7 the rest of the way, and they're 10 wins, probably good enough to make the playoffs. So, shout out to the Broncos for being good. Okay, so next up we got the Dolphins and the Raiders. Finally, an actual football game. I think this could be really entertaining. So I don't even know who's up next. So I'm just gonna go Roman. You can start us off here because you started us off to start the episode. Who do you like, Dolphins and Raiders?
Yeah, obviously Tua will be out for this game, but even if Tua was in, I'm taking the Raiders. I think they're going to be a good game. They've shown they can win against good teams, solid playoff contenders, I believe, in Pittsburgh and Baltimore to start the year. So definitely have an impressive resume already. Carr playing out of his mind, leading the league in passing yards. I think that continues at home in the Death Star against Miami, who's going to look pathetic without Tua. So.
Yeah, they looked awful last week without Tua in that game, but their defense is still respectable. Probably keep this game pretty close, but I'm also going to take the Raiders. I don't have as much interest in this game without Tua being out there. So I know Drew said he thinks it's going to be a good game. I expect the Raiders to win this one at home. I think they're going to get it done, and Drew also thinks they're going to get it done.
I'm sorry to cut you off, Drew, but this is also my revenge game from last year where I took the Raiders over the Miami, and that was Rich Fitzpatrick's face mask Hail Mary play, and that ruined the game for me. So the Raiders better win this game.
Yeah, I mean it's crazy to think the Raiders are going to start 3-0 most likely too. I don't know. I feel like the Raiders, they got 2 wins that I mean I expected them to beat Baltimore, but we all expected them to lose last week to Pittsburgh. They got 2 wins I think most people didn't expect them to get. Just seems like such a Raiders thing to just fall flat on their face against Jacoby Brissett. So
perfect Raiders.
It could definitely happen. But the real intriguing thing I think with this game is if Miami gets plowed, right? They did not play well last week. They got plowed again by a Raiders team that I think going into the season, many people thought Miami was better than Vegas. Do they pull the trigger on a Deshaun Watson deal? I mean, the two parties have been linked together for a while. Obviously, they don't have Tua. This could be interesting. Things could happen very quickly. Who knows? But yeah, it'd be crazy to think that the Dolphins are 0-3 and the Texans are 1-2. Just throwing it out there. Oh wait, they're 1-2 too. The Dolphins won week 1. My bad. Never mind. All right, so we got Buccaneers Rams. This could be. Yeah, it is the game of the week. Safe to say. I'm glad I'm not going first. So, Chris, who do you like between the Rams and the Bucs?
I've been contemplating this one since we started the pick 'em because I think there's a lot riding on this game. The Rams and Bucs played a really good game last year. That was fun to watch. It is in LA. I think I'm going to take the Rams in this one, despite I don't really like picking against Brady anymore. And the Bucs have looked really good. Their secondary looks dreadful right now. I mean, they are probably going to get torched by Matthew Stafford. And I think no AB could potentially hurt. Ramsey can cover Mike Evans. It's pretty much going to be Chris Godwin, and I don't like the Tampa Bay running backs. I'm going to take the Rams in this one. I think they're a little bit more of a complete team right now with that banged-up Tampa Bay secondary.
Yeah, Stafford and Cooper Kupp look amazing together. They're going to continue the connection. However, he did jam his thumb, I believe, in that last game versus Indianapolis, and he continued to play. So hopefully it's nothing too serious. He normally plays through a lot of injuries anyways. I'm going to take the Rams, as I do always, and then leave the door open for Drew to go with a one-off on this time.
Here we go. You kidding me? Matthew Stafford, Mr. Can't get it done in the playoffs, can't get it done in clutch time against Tom Brady. Are you kidding me? I'm going with that. Even if what's his face, Jalen Ramsey flocks down Mike Evans, he's also got Gronk. He's got Gio
He looks
Bernard out of the
good.
backfield. Give me a break. Like I don't know. It's gonna be a good game, but it concerns. I know the Buccaneers. I just got done saying it with the Falcons. When I talked about that, they let the Falcons hang around and then they just squashed their throat. I feel like that kind of reminded me a little bit though of like LeBron when he goes in like a Lakers game and he lets the team kind of hang around for 3 quarters and the fourth quarter he just takes over. That's kind of what Brady and the Bucks did, I think, last week against the Falcons. The Rams though kind of concern me a little more. As Roman said, Stafford's got that little thumb thing. He's always got something. It seems like. Glad it's not my problem anymore. And also they almost lost to the Colts. Let's just say what it is. They almost lost to the Colts. We've already talked about it ad nauseum. How about how Wentz is not 100%? That concerns me too. Their defense hasn't looked great. The Colts hasn't. So I don't know. I think it's going to be a really great game. But give me the Bucs. I think this is America's game of the week too. The 4:30 game on Fox. So should be an awesome matchup.
For sure.
Now we've got the Seahawks and the Vikings. I'm going first here. So I think I'm going to go with the Vikings. I think I've picked them every week, and obviously they're 0-2, so it hasn't worked out great. But third time's the charm, right? I like the Seahawks too. I think they have a very reasonable chance at winning this game. But they didn't look great against the Titans in the second half. I think the Vikings looked really good for the most part for their first 2 weeks, even though they are 0-2. So I think they get off the schneid here, win a game. I don't know. I wanted to pick an upset here, so I'm going with the Vikings.
Man, this is a tough one. I may have gone Minnesota if you didn't. I am going to go with the Seahawks in this one. Both teams lost in devastating fashion last week. The Vikings are very desperate for a win here now, but I think Seattle's going to get it done on the road. I just trust Russell Wilson too much to pick against him in this one. He's looked really good through 2 weeks.
Yeah, this is Seattle's game to lose, in my opinion. While Minnesota should have won that game last week against Arizona, I think this game will be not as close. I think Seattle's done a really good job these first couple of games getting their offense together, whether running the ball or through the air to Tyler Lockett, who I love as a fantasy owner myself, and a newly owner, I guess, with Chris. So congratulations. But I think Russell Wilson kind of took the L on his back for the last week when he kind of had some bad throws, bad reads in overtime, especially almost giving up a walk-off safety that wasn't called. But I think they bounced back this week. I think there's a lot like on that team. Their defense wasn't terrible until the second half, where obviously King Henry just ran and did whatever he wanted. But I think this is Seattle's game to lose.
Start Tyler Lockett, start DK Metcalf in fantasy because this Minnesota secondary blows.
Start Justin Jefferson and start Adam Thielen because the Seattle secondary blows. I mean, you could you could say on both sides. I think it's gonna be an entertaining game. I think it's gonna be a high scoring, kind of like last week. I think the late window, 4 o'clock window's got maybe some better games than the early window with
definitely.
that Bucks Rams and then the Viking Seahawks. Because I think Viking Seahawks are both in very similar boats. They're not gonna probably win their division, but they're gonna be right there with the wild card race. Now we've got Packers, 49ers. I think Roman, you're starting us off here. Who do you like between the Packers and the Niners?
Well, I mean, I said last week that it was going to be a get-right game for Green Bay. I wasn't really predicting too much, but it obviously was. So obviously quieting the haters. I mean, they're going to be back on track. San Francisco, they barely won against Philadelphia, who, although Chris loves Philadelphia, it was an ugly game for San Francisco. So and obviously with their backfield concerns, Ayuk still hasn't looked up to par. I mean, they just have Debo, not really a whole lot going on besides Kittle, who also needs to get it going as well. I'm thinking the Packers. I think it'll be another good game. However, I think it'll get away from San Francisco pretty late.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, Roman. I'm going to take the Packers in this one. Looked a lot better last week, especially in the second half of that game. I expect them to ride that wave of momentum into this one, into San Fran, and get the job done. I think it could be a good game, but I'm going to take the Packers and the better quarterback.
One upset. I don't want to, but I am. I did not anticipate me being the only person that picked the Niners, but I went into it saying I'm going to pick the Niners. I'm going to stick to my guns. Probably will blow up in my face, but here we go. I think the Niners, I mean, their defense outside their secondary is pretty good, and they're going to be able to pressure Aaron Rodgers. And I just don't know about this Packers team. Their defense isn't great. And And it's hard to tell because they looked awful against the Saints, and then they beat up on a Lions team that we've already said is not great. So I don't know. This jury's still out on them. The Niners obviously didn't look great last week either against Philadelphia, but I think Philadelphia, as we'll get to right now in a second, is a decent team. But last game here, Monday night game, Philadelphia versus Dallas. I think this could be a very, very close game. So I'm interested to see, Chris. I feel like there's a clear-cut favorite, but I know you like the team that's the underdog here. So who do you like, Chris?
Yeah, it's this is gonna be a fun one. You know what? You talked me into it. Everyone's been picking with their heart on Monday night. Drew's done it back-to-back weeks, and I know he's had a lot of fun with that. I'm gonna pick with my heart. I'm gonna take Philly in this one. I don't know if I believe that they're gonna win this game in Dallas, but I think Jalen Hurts is gonna have a good game. That Cowboys defense I don't think is very good personally, but we'll have to see how it goes. I got two big upsets this week in Chicago and Philly. Really could come back and bite me in the butt, but I'm gonna do it.
Last week I was the only one to pick the Cowboys, and they won for me, so that was pretty good. They had a couple picks off Herbert, so they did step up when they need to. Philadelphia obviously lost last week, and I kind of expected Chris to pick Philly. I'm gonna go with Dallas again and see what happens. I mean, Pollard had a great game last week. Hopefully, he does it again with Zeke getting some action as well, and obviously the receivers are gonna do what they do best. I think it'll be a slugfest game.
Man, Chris, you almost talked me into Philadelphia there for a second because, like, I think on various aspects of the football field, the Eagles are better than the Cowboys, I would say. But I just feel like Dallas, I don't know. There's something
They're
about
also
them.
without Brandon Graham too.
That too, I completely forgot. Thank you for mentioning that. I'm sticking with Dallas here. They got an awesome offense. Zeke and Tony Pollard. I mean, they're a pretty good dynamic duo. I know fantasy owners obviously don't like it, but and then you got obviously the receivers. I think they're going to be able to make up for their lack of defense and a bad defense that also only gave up 17 points to the Chargers last week. So, I think they're going to get it done. But I do think it's going to be very entertaining game, maybe a little more entertaining than the general fan might expect. But that's it for the pick'em. So now we can hop into the. Oh wait, Rome, you got something to add?
But it's another mixed board. I'm excited to see what the standings look like next week.
Yeah, it started off pretty chalk, so I was kind of worried, but then like I said, those last four games I think are all going to be really, really good. The two primetime games and the two 4 o'clock games, so I think they're going to be great. But we'll now hop into fantasy picks. So I know I started last week. I think Roman started week 1. So Chris, you can start us off here with your first fantasy pick. Who do you like the most?
All right, so I got some deeper. I went with Najee and Justin Herbert last week, which Herbert very much disappointed. Najee was solid, had the receiving touchdown, but he wasn't spectacular. I'm going to go a little deeper this week. I'm going to stick in the flames with my guy, Danny Dimes, Daniel Jones against the Atlanta Falcons defense. I think he's going to have a great game. He was awesome against Washington last week, which is a much formidable defense. He should have had an even bigger game against them with a rushing touchdown. Got called back for a BS hold, and then also a touchdown that went right through Darius Slayton's hand. So he should have had a 4-touchdown game in that one. I think he's going to have another big week. I'd start him as a low-end QB1. I think I'd start him over like a Tannehill this week. I think that's a good one. Maybe a Herbert. I think I'd throw him in there over those guys, even though it sounds gross. He looked good last week, man, and I'm far from a Daniel Jones truther, but I feel like I might be the highest of the three of us on him. I think he's got some promise. He's got some talent. He just needs some help out there, and I think he's going to get this week. And Atlanta provides a very comforting floor as they suck.
Yeah, he's probably the top streamer of the week in terms of quarterbacks, unless you want to argue for Teddy Bridgewater. I think both are good options. But Danny Dimes, I mean, he can run, he can throw. Despite his team not being very good around him, I mean, he makes plays and connects to his receivers. Just makes up the difference. So I like the pick.
I think Sam Darnold might be the streaming quarterback of the week, but that's neither here nor there. I like the pick too. I think it's a good overall pick. I was kind of shocked there for a second when you said Danny Dimes, but I think it's going to be a relatively high-scoring game, and he was so good last week. And the Falcons are obviously not as good as Washington. But okay, so I think I'm second because I don't think Roman you've had the snake yet, so you get the snake this week. So I'm gonna go. Last year when we did these picks, I just looked at who was playing the Jets, who was playing the Jags. This year, I'm looking at who's playing the Lions, and it's the Ravens. And I know you have some basic picks. You got your Lamar Jacksons. I do like Hollywood Brown too, but he's not my pick. My pick is Tyson Williams. I know it's a little maybe a little bit of a dark horse pick. Is that your pick?
Yeah,
I
it
should have.
was.
Oh,
I should have
sorry.
taken. That was my
Sorry.
other one. I should have taken him as
Oh,
my first one.
we're
I
all in
should have.
agreement then. Okay, cool. I thought maybe it was a little too mainstream, but yeah, he's only projected like 11 or 12 points, I think, for the most part. I think he could have a monster. I mean, Aaron freaking Jones got 40 points last week against the Lions, so they don't have a good rush defense. They don't have a good defense, period. Jamie Collins might be getting traded here pretty soon. It might get even worse. So I think Tyson Williams is going to have a good week, a very good week. You can probably start him as your flex or even your RB2, and you could reasonably expect possibly 20 points. I mean, he's gotten double digits the first 2 weeks
Yeah.
playing against actual football teams. Now he's playing the Lions. Expect a big week from Tyson. I think you guys both are in agreement. I apologize
Yeah.
for stealing your pick.
Yeah, I'll talk about it so then Roman can get into his snake picks here. But Tyson Williams, he's looked pretty good through 2 weeks. Honestly think Latavius Murray is a potential emergency start as well in this game. I think you could throw him out there in a pinch. But I
He's finding
obviously
the end
rather have.
zone.
Yeah, he is. He could easily get another touchdown in this game, but this Lions defense is atrocious, and I think Tyson Williams could have a really nice game this week. So, great pick, Drew, man. I like it.
Yep. So I'm gonna go into my snake picks now. I'll give you both right now. You mentioned the quarterback for this team. I'm thinking Darius Slayton out of the Giants. I mean, he's not the wide receiver one there, but he's done the most in terms of wide receiver room. Unless you argue Sterling Shepard has done a decent
Yeah.
job too. But I think all three of those wide receivers could go off in this game. I mean, like we mentioned earlier, it'll be an ugly game, but a high-scoring game, and that'll just give more opportunities to fantasy owners and the players involved. So Daniel Jones, obviously a streamer. I think you can start comfortably Slayton the flex as well if you have to. I think they'll have a good game as well. And my second pick, Quintez Cephas. No, I'm just kidding.
Jesus.
I'm just kidding. Similarly to how Drew said he doesn't look at the schedule for the Jags and Jets, in an emergency situation, I'm going to. And obviously, the Cardinals play the Jaguars. So obviously, you have to start Chase Edmonds. That'd be obviously the obvious start. I'm going obvious. Yeah, you took my pick. That's what I'm going to do. But Chase Edmonds, I think, is a good start this week. Even Connor, maybe, if you're in a pinch as well. But I think Slayton and Edmonds are good starts this week.
Yeah, Slayton, you said comfortable start at the flex, but Slayton's one of those guys that gets a lot of his points on one play. For me, I'm putting him in my flex and I'm plugging my nose because I have some fears that he could go out there and throw up a nice 0 for you. But I do have the combination of Daniel Jones and Darius Slayton in a best ball league. So I am thrilled to hear that you like him this week. And I also think he could have a nice week. Not to mention, Kenny Galladay is injured right now, so he could miss the game as well. So Shepard and Slayton could be the main two, as they've been through 2 weeks anyways. But, Edmonds, and especially in a PPR, I like him this week too.
I love the Slayton pick because I had Sterling Shepard as one of my backup options if someone stole mine. So I like both those Giants. It seems like we're all in on the Giants offense this week, which is interesting.
What could go wrong?
I know you kind of said that the Chase Edmonds pick was too mainstream, but I don't think it was too mainstream. I mean, he's not like a big name guy, but I think I considered having him as my fantasy pick this week, full disclosure, because I think he's going to have a good week. I don't think people think of him when you're thinking about the good RB1s and RB2s. But my pick, this is a deep cut. This is probably the deepest cut of deep cuts. This is a guy that might not even
Peterson.
This is a guy that might not even play this week, full disclosure. But I'm going to bring your guys' attention to the news and notes section. Okay, you look down to that second bullet point. The 49ers running back carousel. So you see Mitchell, he's banged up. You got Sermon, you got Hasty, both not playing. And then you see and more. And my pick is that and more guy, and it's Jacques Patrick. This guy is a beast. He's a tank. He's like 6'3", 225, average 5 yards a carry on 31 carries in the preseason for the Bengals. I think he would be a starter on some teams if it wasn't for Joe Mixon. He tore it up in the XFL. This guy is a beast. He's a monster. And I think if Mitchell doesn't play, this guy, you're probably not going to start him, right? Unless you're in a pinch. But if Mitchell doesn't play, I think he could have a monster game. Green Bay's defense isn't good. So even if this might not be a starting pick for this week, I think you could add Patrick, and I think he could be fantasy relevant here very, very soon. I have him in my redraft league. He's only owned by like 1% of all leagues. So just is a deep cut, but I wanted to mention him because I think he's going to be relevant sooner rather than later.
You know what, Drew? Would love it.
I picked him up in Dynasty, so I'm feeling that too. But I mean, I wouldn't start him this week unless it's like a 10 flex league or whatever. I think that's the only situation where you put him in this week. But
Unless
obviously, it
Get him
depends
in
Mitchell
on the
that
hurt.
lineup, baby. Get him in that lineup.
it depends on the other running backs. Obviously, if it's a good start, I mean, if they're out, then sure. But if they're not, yeah, no thanks. But we'll see how this pick looks next week, Drew.
See, when I think of Jock Patrick, I think of Derrick Henry. I mean, this guy's a supreme athlete, an absolute monster. Now, in all full disclosure, I really hoped I was going to get Jock Patrick in a redraft as well. I wanted to throw him on my bench. I already have Jeff Wilson, so I'm just trying to throw some darts on the board for this San Fran running back room. But he has a good chance. He's probably going to be pretty durable. He's a bigger guy, big body. Probably not going to catch that many passes, my guess is, but he could definitely be valuable on the ground, especially in a non PPR. I wouldn't start him this week, but I'd definitely throw him on my roster, and you could have a fantasy viable player down the stretch.
I just want to say one name real quick before you get into your pick here, Chris. Frank Gore, one of the greatest running backs in San Francisco 49ers history. Here we go. Frank Gore 2.0. Let's go. Jock Patrick. If he's actually good, I'm going to buy a jersey. You can quote me on that. Okay, Chris, who's your pick?
Yeah, my pick not quite as deep as yours, but still a guy maybe doesn't come to the forefront except for in 2018 when he was relevant. Now he's most famous for making TikTok dances. It's Juju Smith-Schuster. I think he's going to have a nice week. Definitely start him in a PPR as a wide receiver too. Deontay Johnson, as of right now, probably going to miss in my opinion. I think he's going to. So especially if he misses, I'm putting him in the lineup. The only risk is the Big Ben injury with the pack, but I think he's going to be out there. Juju, Big Ben already has one of the weakest arms in the league at this point of his career, in my opinion. It's pretty much just totally shot. Juju is a guy that runs the underneath routes really well. I think he can have a good week. I'd expect, 8, 10 targets from him, which might not be a great week if he doesn't get in the end zone, but he's definitely going to give you a nice floor. So this might be, your favorite depth piece out there, maybe your first guy off your bench. I'm saying plug him in that lineup when you got that receiver in that tough matchup. Throw this guy, you got Corey Davis in your lineup, take him out, put Juju in. You got another receiver on that level. I would do that. So I think he's going to have a nice week.
I think Juju's gonna get more points doing TikTok dances on the field than with actual gameplay.
Jesus.
No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding. But I think it's a solid flex this week. I mean, it's kind of ugly, or it's you kind of plug your nose when you put Juju in, considering he's had a bad reputation in the past with like that stuff. Obviously, Claypool is going to be involved. I mean, Deontay Johnson, if he's out, then sure. If he's in, then probably not. But this could be a blowout depending on what the game script is. I mean, Najee has done a good job last week, so he might get more work. So who knows what kind of game it'll look like, and if they'll have to pass the ball much, even if they do have Big Ben in. So we'll see. I think it's like one of these to kind of wait and see.
I do think that the Deontay injury, as well as the Ben injury, it kind of in a weird way boosts Juju up, even if it's detrimental to the Steelers as a whole. Because Claypool, I'd be worried about because he's a big play guy, and with Ben's injury, you're concerned that maybe he can't pull off those big plays. But Juju's, as you mentioned, he's a short yard gain, not a lot of yards there, but he's able to get a lot of catches. So those are just point every catch. So I think I do like the pick, especially if he's just your wide receiver 2 or even a flex option. I do like it overall. But do you guys have anything else you want to touch on here on this episode before we get out of here?
No, that's it for me.
Nope.
All right. So thank you again for listening. Once again, we are the Zone Defense Podcast. We do these episodes on the NFL every single week, along with fantasy analysis and breaking news. So make sure you subscribe to us on YouTube, follow us on Spotify and Twitter at Zone Defense Pod, and search us on Apple Podcasts so you don't miss any of that awesome content. Be sure to smash that like button and drop a comment down below. Let us know who maybe your deep cut fantasy pick of the week was. I feel like none of us went super mainstream this week, which was nice. So if you have a guy that's not one of the big name guys that you really like, make sure you leave it a comment down below and let us know who your big pick is. And also, of course, let us know what you thought about our NFL picks. If you thought any were stupid, any were good, and let us know who you think are going to win the big matchups for this week. But thank you again for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Peace.
See ya.